This is a Willets Point Shea Stadium bound 7 express train. The next and last stop is Willets Point, Shea Stadium.
Oh, yes, it is Anthony Rivera here with you, talking about all the news and happenings surrounding that team from Queens, the New York Mets. It's a Subway to Shea series preview. The Mets head to Miami to take on the Miami Marlins. And on top of all of that, it's Friday, everyone. It is Friday. The weekend is here. I hope you guys have off this weekend. I know some people do work on the weekends, but I hope you get to enjoy this weekend. I hope we get some nice weather out there as well. Shout out to already 17 people up in here. Appreciate you all. My brother from another mother, Duran Rivera, in the house. Appreciate you. Brad up in here as well. How you doing, my friend? And I got Maureen. How's it going, Maureen? Hope you are well. My man, Keith from Shea and Sons. I hope you guys checked out their series recap last night of the Mets and Phillies. We're going to do a little bit of a recapping here as well. Jeff Cohen in the house. Appreciate you, my friend. Thank you. And Junior Swingman as well. Appreciate every single one of you in here. And like Duran Rivera says, like and subscribe. Do me that favor. Like this video. Subscribe to the YouTube page for Subway to Shea. We just got over 400 subscribers, and I appreciate that very, very much. And you can listen and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Here's all the places you can get it. There you go. On Instagram, X, TikTok, at Subway to Shea. You can follow me, Anthony Rivera, at Ant Rivera 86. That's on my personal X page or whatever you want to call it these days. And like I said, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube as well. Now, before we get started, I'm going to have to drink some water because the last time I went, I think, a half hour without it, and I was very parched. So we are here today on a more positive note, right? I mean, not the all greatest of notes, but the Mets at least came away with the win. It did not come without struggles. Did not come without being nervous, because there's not a game that this Mets team plays where we are not nervous at all throughout the entire game just to get a victory here. So let's go through the recap. And if you have any comments, if you have any questions, it's an open floor. Whatever opinions you have, lay it out there. I'm here to listen to it all as we get ready for this weekend's game, which I think tonight, Friday's game, I think today starts at 6:10. I think. I am not for sure certain. I will check on that. But let's go through this series recap of the Mets and Phillies here. Game one. The churve wasn't churving, right? Mets sloppy loss 10-5. Joey Lucchesi, 4 1/3 innings pitched, 5 hits, 5 runs, 5 earned runs, 4 walks, 2 strikeouts. A lot of those runs came a little bit later on in the game. He kind of was cruising through the first, 3 to 4 innings, and then the troubles came. But besides that, we got to see the return of Mark Vientos, 2 for 4, an RBI and a run. J.D. Martinez staying hot. We'll get into him a lot more in this show. 2 for 5, a home run, RBI, 1 run. Look, the home run came late. It came in a spot where the Mets were already out of it. But, at least we're starting to see somewhat of a power stroke from J.D. Martinez. And, that's good to see, right? Because besides that, the Mets offense struggled with plate discipline. And they've done this all series long. They've done it in the series at Citi Field. They've done it at the series against the Braves. And we keep seeing these type of innings. We saw one on Wednesday where we saw one on Tuesday in the Aaron Nola game where it took only 3 pitches to get out of the inning. Come Thursday, there was a 4-pitch inning. The Mets need plate discipline. I don't know where it's going to come from, whether it's just Eric Chavez, whether it's just Jeremy Barnes. But to me, those 2 guys are on the hot seat. And if you decide to keep one or the other, do whatever you want. But if this team is going to have some type of shakeup, and we can get into that a little bit more later, I think it comes at the hands of one of these 2 coaches. And, we'll see if that's the move the Mets make first. Talked about it a lot on Mets Evening Brew last night. You can check that out on the Morning Brew Sports Network and their YouTube page. And that was a fun show with Alison Tron of WFAN and Eddie Presti. You could check those guys out as well and check out that show. But you go to game 2, and the Mets won a nail biter in extras. Pete Alonso's power starting to return. He hit a home run in the first inning. Jose Quintana bounced back 5 and a third innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 runs, 2 earned runs. No walks, which is a blessing. Anytime we can get no walks, that's a blessing. And he had 4 strikeouts. But you go to the 9th with the Mets having the lead, and Edwin Diaz blows another save. This is the 3rd save opportunity that he has blown. So right now, I think he's 5 for 8 at this moment in time. And is there concern about him? We'll definitely get into that. I'd like to know your thoughts on how you're feeling about Edwin Diaz right now. I'm not going to say that I'm too concerned just yet because he is coming off of that surgery, and it's going to take him a while to get his footing back. So, and I don't know about you, but I'm glad he didn't come back at the end of last year. He probably could have gotten hurt then. So, look, we'll see what happens with Edwin Diaz. I'm just hoping that he's able to find his form. It's still early in the season. We still got June, July, August, and September. And the hope is that he can regain some sort of that form, in the future, but pretty soon, And JD Martinez, back about JD Martinez, clutch RBI single in the top of the 10th, won the game for the Mets here. And if you did see oh, I think I removed him. Okay, there. If you did see the Shane Suns with my guy Keith yesterday, I know he was praising the move by Carlos Mendoza to, I think they walked Bryce Harper at the time, which led to a double play. Good move there by the Mets, and it was nice to see them, get out of a tough situation because even though I think it was in the top of the 11th that they scored the run. I put the top of the 10th, but I think it was the top of the 11th. So that's an error on my end, and I apologize for that. But in the top of the 10th inning with a man on second base, you had Pete Alonso come up in a spot where they needed a run. The runner got moved to third. Pete Alonso grounds out to shortstop. Runner can't score. Francisco Lindor comes up, and I think he strikes out or he grounded out. But, man, these two guys need to really start coming up in big spots and delivering because, there are fans out there that are not wanting these two on the team anymore. And I got a lot of fight back from fans this week with a tweet that I made that the Mets roster is costing Pete Alonso the opportunity to stay on this team, that he'll get traded. And a lot of fans said, no, it's Pete that's costing Pete, which is somewhat true. It is. Both are true, right? I mean, this team is playing in terrible as a whole. And then Pete Alonso's not helping the case with himself either, not coming up with big spots. So I don't know how he's going to get this big money. Then the whole thing about the contract and that he turned down, I think it was like a 7-year deal from the Mets, kind of like Michael Conforto did in 2020 or 2021. So, or the beginning of 2022. Man, I'm getting my years all messed up with these players. It's just like a blur to me now because it's just been the same disappointment outside of 2022. But these two guys got to come up in big spots, and I'm not going to be one of those guys that boos Francisco Lindor, but it's time, Francisco. It's time to step up your game. You're getting $300 million to be a top player in this team, top player in the league. And I know you go through slumps, but we are into May now. It is time to step up your game. All right. And maybe he does, right? Maybe he becomes that 30 for 30 guy again, right? That's a lot of people talking about. You know what? At the end of the season, he's going to be the 30-30 guy. And that could be all well and true. But you know what I care more about? I care more about this team winning instead of the individual stats. If he helps this team win games, that's more important to me. It'd be awesome if he's a 30-30 guy again. But I don't want those to be empty stats at the end of the year. I want it to mean something. And I want to see these players, like my guy Chris Ferro saying, well, he's saying hi to everyone. I clicked on the wrong one, but accountability. This team needs accountability, and I'm hoping, like my guy Ibby from Till Mets Do His Part says, Lindor's going to go 3 for 5 tonight. I hope so. I sure hope so against this Marlins lineup. There's no doubt that this team should sweep this series here. You got one of the worst teams in all of baseball in the Miami Marlins. There's no doubt in my mind that this team has to sweep this series. They shouldn't lose a game here. You got Christian Scott on the mound. You got Sevy and Manai on the mound. Those are your 3 best pitchers right now. You should be able to take care of that lineup, which I'm pretty sure they will. But then it comes down to the offense, right? It comes down to this entire offense. And I'm not just going to throw shade at Lindor. It's Pete. It's McNeil who grounds out to first base there. I don't know how many times I've seen Jeff McNeil ground out to the first baseman or not be able to get a ball into the outfield or get a hit. Like his clock is ticking. That's for sure. But let's go into some of the comments here. Bear with me. CP's in the house. My guy, CP NY Sports. And make sure you guys are following him on YouTube as well. I'm pretty sure he's hyped after that Rangers win yesterday. And I'm pretty sure he did his post-game show and pre-game show. And then tonight is a big night for the Knicks. So make sure you are following him and following his account and all the great content that he's putting out. Jeff Cohen says, in 5 instances so far this season, the Mets have not scored in the 10th inning with the Manfred man on second base. That is a problem. It is. But they're just not scoring in general, right? And then you're given this gift. How many times over the last, I want to say 5 years, and we can start with 2020 with the pandemic season, where maybe 4 teams in the National League didn't make the playoffs, and the Mets were one of them. The Mets never take advantage of these gifts that have been given to them by Major League Baseball, whether it was, the extra teams being put in the playoffs, or like Jeff says, not being able to score a run from second in the 10th inning, a gift runner. And with your heart of the lineup at the plate, those guys got to come through, man. It's May. We're in the middle of May now, and these guys are still struggling. Hey, maybe they do come up with it at the end of the season, and maybe they do pour it on. But by that time, will it be too late? I hope not. Patty, we're definitely going to get into Sugar. I appreciate you coming on and joining the show. We're definitely going to get into Edwin Diaz and what's been going on with him. CP also says, I just want to see more fights from this team. Nothing more, nothing less. That's what it boils down to in simple terms. More fight. Yeah. This team is not losing by a crazy amount of runs, right? The pitching staff has pretty much held its own. The starters are doing what they can. I wish we see more 6-7 innings from these guys, but we just haven't got it. But it's been a lot better than last season. The bullpen starting to leak a little bit and starting to get nervous because of what's happening with Edwin Diaz. And let's get into Edwin Diaz, right? I said it was, I think, 3 blown saves so far this season, blown more saves than he did in 2022. He's 5 for 8. He's struggling. Like Maureen says, he needs to trust his fastball more. He's throwing too many sliders. And I don't know who's that coming from. Is that Edwin wanting to throw that, feeling more comfortable? Maybe it feels better not only on his arm, but maybe it feels better on his knee to not have to use all that force. I don't know. I'm not a pitching coach. That's up to Jeremy Hefner, the Teflon, pitching coach, to figure out. Which I'm still waiting for him to figure out these walks and how to limit walks. So Edwin's in a tough spot. I think maybe they should take away for, at this moment in time, him pitching on back-to-back days until he can figure out whatever this issue is. Maybe take away, and if that whole thing about throwing fastballs doesn't work, maybe start taking away back-to-back days for him until he gets comfortable. Because we don't know if it's affecting his knee. We don't know if it's affecting his arm. We just don't know. Jeff Cohen saying Miami seems to be a good place for Lindor to come out of his slump. It is. And I will have more on that as soon as we get to the series preview, because there is a good matchup for him as well as Pete that they need to take advantage of. And we'll get into that when we do the series preview. Duran Rivera says Edwin has to establish his fastball, relying too much. Yeah, that's what it seems to be the issue that everyone's been talking about. And I think even Edwin mentioned it during the press conference. Edwin said that he is relying too much on the slider and he's going to have to use his fastball more. So that's a big thing. One other thing that I want to mention that that was talked about yesterday was the fact that Carlos Mendoza held a meeting with the team after the loss on Wednesday, kind of, just with the players, just to throw some positive reinforcement in there. And it seemed to have worked, and they won the game barely. We'll see how they pick up now today, because we all thought the whole turnaround happened after Brandon Nimmo hit that home run on Sunday. And then they blew the game on Monday and lost, 3 straight. So the momentum shifts with this team very quickly. And like I said, we're on that roller coaster ride with the Mets, right? We're right in the kind of middle area right now with this team. And we kind of hope that it just turns around real quickly, because the Mets do have a tough schedule coming up. I know their next homestand, I think they play the Giants, they play the Dodgers. So, this team's going to have to kind of, like I said, when they started this homestand with the Braves and then the Phillies, I was asked by Dexter Henry on the New York Post SNY clip, what does this team have to do? What do you want to see from this team? And I was honest. I said, play 500 ball, go 4-3, go 3-4. Just don't do what they did this week. What was 1-5, that can't happen. That just can't happen. They have to play better. And they beat themselves in a couple of games, which they've been doing a lot this season. Jeff Cohen asks, your thoughts on a 6-man rotation? I think it will be even more stress on the bullpen since starters can't get into the sixth inning. Are you saying that it will be even more stressful if we have a 6-man rotation? I thought that it would actually help. I mean, if you have Kodai Senga in there, or if you bring back Jose Butto, then the 6-man rotation would be a lot better. It seems that Luis Severino's coming into form and has found himself. Sean Manaea has. They are going to get frustrating because they do throw a lot of walks. But again, Jeremy Hefner has to figure out how to limit that and how to stop that. What is it that the entire pitching staff, including the bullpen, including Edwin Diaz now, are walking all these batters? Because once you walk the batters, they don't have good enough pickoff moves to throw runners out at first. The catchers are not throwing are not stopping stolen bases. So now you have an automatic guy on second base, and it feels like the other team has gotten an automatic double to start an inning. These are things I need to figure out. If you can't figure out the walks, we got to figure out how to have better pickoffs, or we got to figure out how to get these catchers to throw runners out at second. The walks are killing this team. That's for sure. Jeff Cohen says the lineup just came out, so I'm going to check it out. Let's see what the lineup is right now. I'm going to go to Twitter and check out what the lineup is at this moment for the Mets. Let's see what we got here. All right, the starting lineup today for this game against Miami, the series opener: Tyrone Taylor leading off and playing center field. Pete Alonso second, batting second, playing first base. Francisco Lindor at short, batting third. JD Martinez will be batting fourth and playing DH. Mark Vientos back on the field after his 2-for-4 game. He'll be batting 5th and playing third base. Starling Marte in right field, batting 6th. Harrison Bader batting 7th in center field. Jeff McNeil playing 2nd and batting 8th. And Tomas Nido batting a 9th with Christian Scott on the mound. I don't think I will ever be able to live down Tyrone Tater. So, maybe if he hits a home run, it's a Tater shot. I don't know. Patty agreeing with me. 100% personal awards don't make the playoffs of the World Series. I started thinking about this a lot over this past week. Is this team more interested in individual accomplishments? Because that's what we keep bringing up, right? Francisco Lindor, 30 for 30 guy. Pete Alonso, 40, 100 and something. And Jeff McNeil, batting champion in the previous year. It's not leading to wins right now, right? These guys are struggling and it's not leading to wins. And when they do that, they still not making the playoffs. And those have been 3 good plays. And don't forget Brandon Nimmo and what he does at the top of the order. They're still not making the playoffs. And this year, last year you could have said it's on the pitching, right? It was 100% on the pitching. Couldn't get through 3 innings. Bullpen was tired by the end of May, and then they were done. This is on the core players right now, on the entire offense. They got to get going. Thank you for letting me know about the lineup. Everyone is posting the lineup in here. Perfect. I appreciate everybody always in this chat, man. You guys are awesome. We got 67 people in here. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the page. We got over 400 subscribers now. Very excited for that. And very excited to bring you more content just like this we're doing today. Ibby saying Luzardo has been off this year, but you know how this goes. And this screams get right game for Luzardo, talented lefty versus the Mets. It's the never-ending nightmare. I agree. And the Mets stats, I was looking at the preview. They don't really hit well against Luzardo. So I could see Luzardo having a really good game here tonight. But hopefully a guy like Harrison Bader, who's supposed to hit lefties, comes to play and starts hitting there. Hopefully we get, another big at bat from Mark Vientos. JD Martinez seems to be hot. Francisco Lindor hits better from the right side. So these guys need to step up their game, man. That's all we can keep asking for from them. It's the only thing we can freaking ask from this team here. Carson saying Nimmo out again. Yes, with Taylor in the lineup, he is out. He put the whole lineup here, so you guys can check that out as well. Nimmo had, I think, the poops, just like Francisco Lindor had to go to the bathroom, and he's got like some kind of stomach issue, and it's going around. The stomach bug is going around. Chris Ferrero saying, I was there Monday, bases loaded, 0 outs, and we get 1 run on a walk. That's the frustrating thing, right? So this team gets the bases loaded a lot of times with no outs, and the runs are coming on wild pitches, walks, maybe it hits batsmen. That's how they're scoring the runs. There's no big hit coming from this team right now. I don't know if they're stressing out or what, but I expect a bunch of professionals and a bunch of guys getting paid the money that they do and being the stars that they are to come through. Doesn't have to be all the time, but probably once in a while, and we haven't seen it this season. Ibby saying the real issue with Nimmo, he's sick of the team just like the rest of us, and that's probably true, right? I mean, this team gets a lot of us sick, and it's been too many years of being sick from this team. Junior Swingman, I've reluctantly come to the mindset that this team can't and won't mesh into a winner. You're not the only one that feels that way. And dang, I don't want to say that I'm starting to feel that way, but the evidence is there, right? This team was put together. The core at least started in 2019, right? If you want to consider the core McNeil, Nimmo, Alonso, right? Those guys started together in 2019. They had that kind of come from behind type season halfway through. 2020, terrible. 2021 fell apart. They had the good season 2022, 2023, terrible. You throw Lindor in the mix and a couple other players. Um, and I don't know, man. I don't know if this is the right group together. I don't know. I really don't. Like, as much as I've tried to defend them and be that rah-rah guy, how many times can you be proven wrong on a daily basis by their play? You can only clap and support Lindor for so long. Now, I'm not saying I'm gonna boo him because I don't do that, but to come and clap and support and then every time it's been just a miss. Maybe 1 out of 4 or 5 times they get it right. This is a team that teases a lot, right? We've seen it. A lot of times in the ninth, they'll come back, they'll tease you a little bit, and then they won't finish the job, right? They'll lose like 6-5, 9-8. They'll do this little valiant effort comeback, but they never finish the job. And there's more teasing than not, which is frustrating, right? They always come up short. And you see that since 2019, right? They came up short in 2019. 2020, they couldn't crack a playoffs where only 4 teams in the National League missed it. 2021, they led the National League East until August and fell apart. 2022, they ran roughshod the whole season, fell apart in the end, got the gut punch from the Braves, got the knockout from the Padres. 2023, disaster. 2024 has kind of started in somewhat of a roller coaster, similar fashion. And you can only blame the coaches so many times, although I do feel some of them have been here way too long. So we got to see what happens with this team. Chris said thought team is maybe shade over 500, starting to think they're shade under 500. It's what it seems like, and it's what we're seeing from them, right? It's what we're seeing from them. They are a 500, a little over, a little under, right in the middle of 500. Frustrating. Absolutely frustrating. Chris also goes on to say the hitting coach should be fired. Try something, I guess, different here. And offense been a problem for some time. Yeah. Look, I think I was asked yesterday, like, what's the first move that you would make on the Mets Evening Bureau? I was asked, what's the first move that you're making? Player, but it's not the player, right? It's going to be first move they probably make is to get rid of the hitting coaches. Once that doesn't work, I assume that like McNeil's on the block, Marte's on the block, Alonso is on the block, and that they'll go from there. The starting pitchers that are here on 1-year deals, they'll be on the block. They'll probably try to trade a guy like let's say it really goes bad. I don't want it to. Let's say it really goes bad. You don't think the Mets would try to trade a guy like Reed Garrett, who is having his best season of his career, and try to flip and get some prospects out of there from him, like they did with David Robertson? Like, this dude's having a really good year. I wouldn't be shocked if the Mets cashed in on that if they're doing terrible and trade a guy like him. Just a thought. But, we'll see what happens. Carson's guy, Diaz, says Diaz is struggling, but I'm ignoring it, so it's not actually happening because I said so. Hey, man, look, I don't believe that he's hurt right now. I believe he's holding back. I am okay with it at this moment in time. I know it's cost him some saves here. I would like to see him throw the fastball more, but I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to go out and say that he's a 2019 Edwin Diaz right now. I'm not jumping on that board just yet. I think he's better than that. It's a different scenario now, right? He came into 2019 from Seattle, first year at Citi Field. Every year since then, he's gotten better. I just think that he does have a little bit of nerves, a little bit of concern that he'll get hurt again. But, hopefully not. Chris Ferro is saying Mets Up podcast said Sugar looks like he's pitching all upper body and nothing from the legs. It's probably right. Probably right. Maybe there are some days that his knee feels sore. I mean, like it takes longer than a year to step on his knee the way he has and the way he does. That surgery takes a while to heal from. Maybe the upper body's fine, right? The arm's fine, the torso's fine, shoulder, elbow, maybe all that's fine. But since he hurt his knee, maybe he's got to dial it back a little bit. And that's what's costing them. So we'll definitely see moving forward. I know that Mendy, the last time that he blew a save, or not the last time, but that one game that he blew in Tampa, Mendy went right back to him, and he threw 98, 99 and got the save against, I think it was St. Louis. So I'm confident he'll be fine, and I think he'll do well. Let's see what else we have here. Patty's saying, this is funny. Patty's saying, it's not as though Mendy raised his voice like I would have. Yeah, I don't know if there's going to be a lot of that anymore these days where the manager, although maybe Ron Washington would. I think he got very angry with Luis Guillorme not putting down a bunt. So we'll see here. Christopher saying, bring back Tony Bernazard. No, thank you. That was the pot that stirred the kettle for that 06, 07, 08 team and kind of destroyed what good graces that team had. So, I know you're just joking around, but yeah, like Gibby says, dark times, man. Dark times. Patty asking, did Drew Smith come back yet? McGill, where are they? Also, did Fuego get sent back? I think Joey Lucchesi got sent back when they brought up Josh Walker to relieve because they needed another arm in the bullpen, and they're doing this shuttle game or the shuttle circus with these relievers and starters. McGill is up with the team in New York, and I think he's starting Monday against the Guardians. And then Drew Smith I think he had a minor setback where he felt a little pinch in the back of his arm. So he is not ready to go yet. It's nothing serious, they said. It's not going to need tests, but he's just not ready at this moment in time. So we'll see. Chris Farrell liking my Tyrone Tater era there. Maybe they will use it. Maybe they'll use a tater tot, base hit. I like that. I really do. Let's see what else we got here before we get into the series preview. Duran Rivera saying JD Martinez hit ball to the right side and got a hit to drive in the run in the 11th professional hitter that does what situations call for. Yep. We already knew coming into this season that JD Martinez was a professional hitter. And I know he struggled off the bat, but you have to remember he signed probably a few days before, or a week, as it was a week before the Mets broke camp to go to opening day. So he has not gotten that full spring training out, or at least he did in April. Probably came back a little too early. I would give him still another month to get finally find 100% footing. But you seeing him starting to deliver, and he's starting to hit. The only thing is, the guy that he's protecting, that we all wanted him to come in here to protect, has not been his best so far. And now they've sandwiched Lindor between Pete Alonso and JD Martinez to try to get Francisco Lindor going. I hope it works, because it worked for Pete. He's starting to heat up. So I hope it does work for Francisco Lindor as well. Ibby saying the only runs this team gets is from being sick. And yeah, how fitting, right? How fitting. That almost LOL Mets type of thing, right? I mean, it's got to be the Mets. It's got to be the Mets. Maureen saying, bribe Keith and Ron to come out of the booth for a couple of weeks as hitting and pitching coaches. I wish that they would. I do. That would be awesome. I know that like the Wilpons didn't want like Keith around the clubhouse or something for a while back then. I don't know if that's a true story or what, but he wasn't like allowed to be around the clubhouse. crazy times back then. Too crazy. Jeff Cohen saying McNeil should bunt towards third base. This was it won't be a slow road at second. Yeah. Guy can't get the ball out of the infield, man. He has been more frustrating to me than Lindor, because at least Lindor has somewhat of a power stroke and can hit you home runs and hit some gappers. McNeil's not even doing that, man. Pop-ups, strikeouts, rollers, ground balls. Nothing had, maybe a couple of bloop hits here and there. The dude's got to get it together, and he's got to get his mind right. Enough getting angry for nothing. Get your mind right. Patty's saying, in my opinion, I don't think they work hard enough. I think Pete is very serious. Other than that, I don't think McNeil, Lindor, Marte work practice. I'll see y'all later. I'm leaving the office. Patty leaving with that note. I can't answer that, honestly. I see them out there on the field. I see them in the for batting practice. I don't know how much harder they have to work or what it is. I just feel like they are just going through the motions right now. That's why I stopped listening to the post-game pressers, because it just feels like ho-hum, going through the motions. We'll get it right. And I know you can say, oh, but what are they supposed to say? I don't know. I wish there was a little bit of, maybe they'd be a little angry at themselves, a little fight on their side. I think CP mentioned it, just a little bit more energy or something from this team. But, I honestly, I don't know. I would say that they work hard. Maybe they're listening to the wrong voices when it comes to the offense and it comes to those, hitting coaches. Maybe they just need a new voice. But we've seen in the past, once you replace a new voice, right? Like Chili Davis, we get Hugh Quattlebaum, and the team still doesn't hit. So at some point, let's say they do get rid of a Eric Chavez and or a Jeremy Barnes, and this team still continues to stink, or they continue to not hit. When is it that we have to find players that are actually going to hit? When do we make that decision? Jeff Cohen saying, too bad Mauricio got hurt. Wonder how the team would do with him and not McNeil. I think that if he was playing, he would probably be playing third base. Although I like him better at second base. I think he's a nice compliment to Francisco Lindor at short. That double play combo, I think, is a nice one. And I thought that they were smooth together. So I would prefer him to play second base, but I think the plan was to have him play third. And it just, he got hurt. So he'll be back. He'll be back next season. So Carson saying, I got to get into my show, but I can confidently say this is not a 2019 type problem. So everyone needs to take that out of the question. Not that it's a 2019 problem, but you still have some of the players, some of the core that is here from 2019. A person that you don't like as well, which is Jeff McNeil. So we have to, you got to consider all things. I mean, not every player was on that team. Not every coach was on that team. So I get that whole point. And make sure you check out Mets Weekly, which I don't know if it's going to be live or it's recorded. But once you get done with this, make sure you head over to Mets Weekly and check out what they got going on there, because they always have good information. Chris Ferris saying amen. And I can't take the positive thoughts over and over. Sometimes just got to say we suck right now. Hey, it kind of feels that way. Right? I mean, they're on this roller coaster ride that they put us on this whole entire year. They should be better. There's a couple of sweeps that I thought they should have taken care of this season, which they then ended up getting swept themselves and losing themselves. So It is what it is with this team, right? I feel like that's the title line at the end of the day. It is what it is. Ibby saying, are we at a point to ask the question with Lindor that if this team had another big bat would allow him to settle into the leadoff spot and take off the offensive pressure? I mean, it's possible, right? We all waited for a bat to protect Pete. He's gotten that now, and he still struggled. He's only just gotten hot now. Moving Francisco Lindor up to the leadoff spot. Maybe you just switch him with Nimmo, and maybe that's something since Nimmo has more, I want to say, clutch hits at this moment in time. Maybe try that. I'm up to try anything at this point in time. Whatever's going to get this offense going, I'm up for anything. Okay, Carson was talking about Diaz 2019. Right. No, I 100% agree with you. I don't think at all that it's 2019 Diaz. Not at all. Not at all. I'm sorry. I misunderstood you, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, not 2019 Diaz, what we're dealing with right now. I mean, 2019 Diaz seemed afraid to play in New York, right? And he cost this team an opportunity single-handedly at making the playoffs. This is not that, right? He's coming back from a year being off. He's recovering from the knee injury, probably still. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. Not the Edwin Diaz of 2019 at all. Chris Ferro says, yes, I know Soler doing bad and Teoscar heading towards rough direction. Maybe they would have helped the lineup through. I don't know. They could have. They could have. Or maybe everyone who just comes to this lineup then starts to stink, right? But here's a positive, right? There are still 10 other teams in the National League that are under 500 right now. The Mets are only a half game out of the wild card. I can't believe I'm talking about this right now, but they are only a half game out of the wild card. So, at the trade deadline, if they're still hovering around this, a couple of games, a half game out, half game ahead, I'm pretty sure there'll be more of buyers, but I want to see how they play first, right? Like they can be hovering around the wild card, but still be under 500 and still not showing that they have improved as a team. And then I wouldn't probably be buyers at the trade deadline because you don't want happening to the Mets what happened to the Angels, where they bought into this team last year with false hope and they fell apart at the end. So don't want that. Definitely don't want that at all. Jeff Cohen saying at least Christian Scott's pitching tonight. That's a huge positive, and we will get into the series preview in just a few moments. I know I leave it off for last, and that's why I put now Mets news and series preview together because it's mostly just what I like this chat session, and I love it. I love here talking with you and getting all these comments and all that stuff. Game for War says Mets need to ban McNeil from playing golf till he straightens his swing. Seems like he's always trying to punt the ball into the SNY booth. Someone mentioned on Twitter about the Mets fans getting on Yoenis Cespedes because he also played golf. And that's why, he was slumping or something like that. So I can see that. Look, I came from playing baseball when I was younger into playing golf, and man, it's a hard thing to adjust your swing, at least for me. And maybe I'm not as athletic as these guys are, but it's a different swing. I don't know. I wonder if that's like affecting him at all. See, that's a more logical effect than saying the City Connect jerseys are costing them wins, or the black jerseys, or the fact that Timmy Trumpet played in 2022 is affecting them from winning. But there are more things that I think are costing this team, more real life things, and this is could possibly be one of them. Shout out to Carlos Ortiz who's in here. Appreciate you joining us, my friend, and enjoying this show. Ibby saying it speaks volumes that this team's offense is what it is, and questions about the rest of the system from an offensive standpoint as well as systemic issue. You got to start at the top, right? And it starts with the coaches. And that's where it will start if this team continues to struggle, That's where it's going to start, where there are firings and changes that need to be made. It will start with the coaches first and then move down to the players. So, one more before we head into the series preview. Jeff Cohen says Mets facing starting pitchers this weekend with 5.97 ERA, 8.44, and 5.96 ERA should win series, if not sweep. We should. But like Avi brought up before, Jesus Luzardo's a lefty. Mets struggle against lefties, and they're going to make him look like Randy Johnson. That's my concern. But they should. There is no doubt. And we're going to get into the series preview right now. There is no doubt. You know what? No. There is no excuse for this team to not sweep the Miami Marlins this weekend. No offense to the Miami Marlins. They made the playoffs last year. I think they made a mistake by getting rid of Kim Ang as the general manager. But there's no excuse for where the Mets are right now, for where the Marlins are right now, for the pitching matchups that I'm about to show you. There's no reason that this Mets team should not sweep. I think I would be very disappointed, and the team should be disappointed in themselves if they do not sweep the Marlins this weekend. All right, let's get into the series preview here. And I got the pitching probables that I'm going to throw up to you right now. Let me get rid of the banner. There we go. Christian Scott, as Jeff Cohen said, he's taking the mound tonight, 0-1 with a 2.84 ERA, going up against Jesus Luzardo, who's 0-3 with a 5.97 ERA. Then you got Luis Severino, 2-2 with a 3 ERA against Braxton Garrett with a 8.44 ERA. And then finally, Sean Manaea, 2-1 with a 3.05 ERA, taking on Sixto Sanchez, 0-1 with a 5.96 ERA. I feel like this Marlins trio here is better than what they've shown. Like, obviously, Jesus Luzardo, who a lot of Met fans like, including Ibby, and wants to trade for him. I know that. And, Braxton Garrett, I know there was a lot of high hopes for those two guys. I don't know too much about Sixto Sanchez, but I kind of I think this is I think we're going to see some good pitching this weekend. And watch, because I said that, it's going to be an offensive outburst for both teams. But I really do think that we're going to get some good pitching matchups. Usually when I have a guest on, I ask what pitching matchup they're looking forward to the most. You guys let me know. Which of these pitching matchups are you looking forward to the most? I want to say the Christian Scott, Jesus Luzardo one. I think they are in order of how I want to see these, how I want to see this go, right? Like Christian Scott Luzardo's 1 for me, Severino Garrett 2, and then Manaea Sanchez 3. Everyone so far in the chat saying they want to see Scott pitch. Chris Ferro saying Sixto was touted but got hurt recently back. So maybe he'll start warming up now, and who knows? Maybe the Mets offense is just what this Marlins pitching rotation needs, right? We seem to help these teams that stink get themselves going. But yeah, I think that this matchup tonight is the one to look out for the most, and then the Severino match against Braxton Garrett as number 2 there for me. Very excited to see these. It's weird. I'm just a baseball junkie and want to see some good games here. Hopefully it's better played, since the Phillies series in Philly was very sloppy. A lot of errors. I think the Mets had 4 errors in this series. Ibby saying he'd bet under on total runs tonight, a pitcher's duel. Might see it. Yeah, I think so. But can we get Christian Scott a win? I mean, the guy's deserved to win twice so far this in his first 2 starts, and has not gotten a win to show for it. Let's get this guy a win. Let's get the kid a win and get this team going. Let me go into the matchups to watch. Okay, first one. There's really nothing in the first matchup between Scott and Luzardo that I liked. Luzardo's pretty much handled the Mets pretty well, and the Marlins have not seen Christian Scott yet. But we go to the first matchup to watch. Pete Alonso, batting .400, 2 home runs, 4 RBIs, and a 1.271 OPS in 15 at-bats against Braxton Garrett. You want to keep Pete Alonso hot. this is a good matchup for him. And I'd like to see him do some damage alongside Francisco Lindor. Look at this, 357 batting average, 3 home runs, 6 RBIs, a 1.428 OPS in 14 at-bats against Braxton Garrett. These two guys, Alonso, Lindor, they better freaking feast off of Braxton Garrett and the Marlins this weekend. There's no excuses. No excuses at all that they should not be taking care of business against this team. Continuing on with this, let me see here. Also, matchup to watch for the Marlins. I'm not just gonna plug the Mets here, and I know I usually like to do by how many at bats we've seen, but when Nick Fortes has 2 home runs and 2 RBIs and 2 at bats against, I put Shea Manaea, but Sean Manaea. Let me fix that. Embarrassing when you spell someone's name wrong. All right, here we go. Boom. Against Sean Manaea, Nick Fortes, 2 home runs, 2 RBIs, and 2 at-bats. That's a guy you're definitely going to watch out for, especially if he has a Sean Manaea number. I know it's only 2 at-bats, but to have the 2 home runs, like, come on. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it for the matchups for this series coming up. So we will see what happens with them. A lot of conversation in the chat about Christian Scott. Ibby saying 1-0 loss for Scott tonight. That would be on cue, right? That would be on par from what we've seen from the Mets. Duran Rivera saying, isn't Sixto Sanchez was supposed to be a stud? Marlins got in a Real Muto deal to the Phillies. I don't know where they got him from. I honestly thought he came in the trade for the Luis Ariz trade, but I guess not. When they got Luis Ariz, I thought he also was a part of it, but I could be wrong. You're probably more right than me. Let's see what else we have here. Maureen saying Scott has been DeGrommed his first 2 games. Yeah. I mean, the Mets seem to not want their own pitchers to win and decide not to hit, especially when they're pitching so well. Chris Farrell bringing up something I never want to get into during the season, but let's do it anyway. Let's have some fun. Who thinks Yanks are going to extend Soto? I think they might. I'm leaning more towards yes than no, because we have too many Met fans on Twitter talking about this guy, Juan Soto, joining the team. And we didn't even get to opening day and people were talking about it. Like, stop. Worry about Soto later. And if this team continues to play the way they are, forget about how much money Steve Cohen has, right? Steve Cohen is going to be able to spend as much money as he wants. But we have to remember, not only is it Steve Cohen's money, it's Mets money. And it's the Mets that you're coming to. And the Mets haven't shown that they are going to be a winning organization just yet. Would you rather come to the Mets? Let's say the contracts are somewhat close. Let's say Hal decides that he wants to really go after Juan Soto and bring and retain him and have him come back to the Yankees. Let's say that they are a few $1 million off, or maybe 10 million, I don't know, $5-10 million in distance or apart. Are you going to go to the Mets or take a little cheaper deal and stay with the Yankees, who have shown over decades that they have been a winning organization? Forget that they haven't won a World Series since 2009. I think he would take staying in the Bronx. I really do. So, look, we'll see what happens here. Let's see. Chris also saying, I don't like either, but I think in framework of this team, if flopping, what will be there for us in the offseason and to compete next year? Not naive to think all prospects pan out right away. The team just needs to win right now. The team needs to forget making the playoffs. I really want to make the playoffs this year, but at this moment in time, forget making the playoffs. I just want to see this team have a winning record. Show these free agents that your organization is on the right track and you're worth it to come to. Jeff saying at 400 plus $1 million, what difference does a few million make? I don't know if that's in agreement with me of what I said earlier. But this team right now has processes and what do you call it? This team has a hill to climb right now and has to reach certain milestones to me, right? Got to get over 500, got to finish with a winning record, got to make the playoffs, got to win the World Series. Let's say this team is under 500, right? They decide to trade. They trade McNeil, they trade Alonso, they trade the starters, and it's back to last season where they get the prospects. The kids start coming up now, like Acuna and Gilbert, and we'll see Vassell and all these guys, right? These guys start coming up, and this team's still struggling, and they finish under 500 again this year. Maybe they will get some free agents, but you know what the problem is? The Mets are going to have to overpay to have players come here. First off, the taxes are high in New York. They rather go to the Bronx than come to Queens because they're more successful. So you're going to have to pay double to get some of these players to come over here. This has been my concern since the end of last season. The Mets offered the same amount of money as the Dodgers to get Yamamoto. And he said, I'm going to go to the Dodgers. Not only because it's closer, but that's a winning organization. Let's not act like that's not a part of the whole situation. Look at all the stuff that Steve Cohen did to try to get Yamamoto here. Went over to Japan, took him out to dinner, had him at his house for dinner. Did all these different things to try to get Yamamoto to sign. And not on top of that, offered the same amount of money as the Dodgers, and then he would have had to actually spend even more money than that. For 325 was not enough. He would have had to spend more money. So that's what I want to avoid with these players. I don't want to have to overpay them anymore. I'm done overpaying these guys because they are not delivering in Queens. They just are not. And as Ibby says, and when you overpay and the team doesn't pan out, those players become complacent because they got paid. 100% correct. Chris Farrar wants to enjoy baseball too. Yeah, man. I want to enjoy. I've been to 5 games this season. The team is 1-4. Maybe I'm the reason why they're losing. On top of the City Connect jerseys and Timmy trumpets and black jerseys and Nike and Fanatics and whatever other excuse it comes that the reason why they're losing and not the players themselves. But it hasn't been enjoyable baseball to watch. Outside of one game, outside of the Doc game that I went to when they retired his number. And the place wasn't even sold out for that. This team needs to hit a lot of milestones. Get over 500, be enjoyable to watch, finish with a good record, try to make the playoffs, and then somewhere down the line, try to win the World Series. The players will come if you start winning. Look at the New York Knicks. Terrible for 2 decades. 2 decades I watched terrible basketball. They had a little good run when Melo was here. But they overpaid for Melo. They lost all of their component players. And they had to spend big time. And that set them back. They were worse off than they were beforehand. Now they found a way to build this team, a winning team. And now players actually want to come here and play for the Knicks. That's what the Mets have to do. I know baseball is different. But you gotta find a way to build a winning group here. It'd be also saying you need to be an exciting team. It shows players what life could be like when they interject themselves into it, become destination, not close to that yet. Like, look, Tommy Pham says had some comments to say. Trevor May had some comments to say about playing in on the Mets. So did Zach Short. There is some underlying issue that's going on here with this team. I don't know what it is, but there is something. So sorry, Chris, that you're 0-5, man. Is it you? So do we add you to the list as well, Chris? So it's me, it's you, it's the City Connect jerseys, it's the black jerseys, it's Timmy Trumpet from 2022, it's Buck Showalter's fault, it's Billy Epler's fault. I think it's all of those things abound here. Frustrating to see. Junior Swingman saying the team isn't reciprocating the energy that the fans are giving them. A lot of fans won't show up. I agree, Ant. They need to develop these kids and a winning culture. Look at the way that Francisco Alvarez was playing from the start, and I think him losing him is a big reason why this team is struggling. Right? He was at the top step for every part of the game. Right? Cheering everything on, every pitch, every out, every hit, he was cheering them on. Same thing with Brett Beatty. And we've kind of seen a change in Brett Beatty. He's not himself anymore. You saw how much fun Brett Beatty was having and how pumped up he was, and he hasn't been since he went into the slump. I'm not saying that this changes anything, but if I could see a little more energy from this group, maybe that's something. I know you don't get it when you lose, but man, we gotta see something. Got to see something from this group. You Know I'm Right podcast says, I think the underlying issue is Francisco Lindor. You're not the only one that thinks that. There are a lot of fans that think that. There are a lot of fans that think Pete Alonso is too, and Jeff McNeil. So, yeah. You Know I'm Right podcast. Make sure you check them out. And my guy, Nick Durst, who's going to join me on Monday at 4 p.m. for the Guardian series preview. He will be my guest co-host, joining me for that. He's also the host of the Believe in the Mets podcast, and he can't stand the black jerseys. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Christopher agrees. He doesn't like them either, and so does Ibby. They miss the white piping. I mean, those are good memories, right? Like, brings you back to the 99-2000 team, brings you back to 2006. My favorite black jersey is not even the Mets one. It's the away New York black jersey, the one that they wore, from, I think it was 99 through, I want to say 2010. That's my favorite one. That's the first jersey that I got that I still have and still fit into. So I like that jersey. Last series, I did a who's hot, who's not. But Mrs. Subway to Shea came up with a better thing to call it. She says, who's ripe and who's rotten. So we're going to use that. We're going to use that right now on the Mets on this show right now. Who's ripe right now, which is who's hot. JD Martinez, 286 batting average, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, 2 walks, and a 904 OPS in his last 7 games. We're starting to see that power come in with JD Martinez. We're starting to see some clutch hits like he did last night against Philly. And hopefully we see some more. Who's rotten right now? I know that Nick's going to like this. Francisco Lindor, 107 batting average, a home run, an RBI, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, 2 stolen bases, a 4.44 OPS. He's 3 for his last 28 at bats. Dude's got to get going, man. Dude has to get going. I know he's a late bloomer. He's a late starter, whatever you want to call it. I don't want him to get started when it's too late for this team. It's got to start happening now. And like I said, his matchup against Braxton Garrett, he's got 3 home runs and 6 RBIs. Get going. Get going. Got one more ripe player for you. Ripe from the apple, Luis Severino, 2-1 with a 2.70 ERA, 23 hits, 12 earned runs, 20 walks. The walks are up there, but he's still keeping this team in the game. 35 strikeouts in 40 innings pitched in his last 7 starts, and I expect him to pitch very well against this Marlins lineup on Saturday. One more rotten for you. It sucks to put him on here, but Edwin Diaz right now in his last 7 games, 1-1, 6.75 ERA, 7 hits, 6 earned runs, 3 walks, 13 strikeouts in 8 innings pitched. I'm hoping he can turn it around. I'm hoping that he gets himself back on track. But those are the ripe and rotten players right now. Shout out to Mrs. Subway to Shea for coming up with that. I appreciate that. Rivera. Let's get to a couple of more comments before we wrap up here. We have 91 people in the room right now. Appreciate you all. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Like the video. Subscribe to Subway to Shea. Share the video for anyone who has not seen anything on the series preview today and wants to check in on some Met news. But appreciate you all. Duran Rivera saying in 85, Gary Carter was dying to get traded to the Mets after catching Gooden in the All-Star game and seeing how good the Mets were becoming. That's how, first off, that you're right? That's how they got Gary Carter to come here. One, that's how they were able to keep Keith Hernandez, because I think Keith Hernandez told the story that his father called him in the offseason and told him, you have to stay in New York. The kids are coming up and they're going to be really good. The Mets need something like this. Like, they got to win. They have to show that they're turning the corner at some point, because right now it doesn't feel that way. Right now it feels like they have not been able to recover from the end of 2022. They do. It'd be saying Omar Narvaez is like a piece of fruit left out in the sun all day. Very rotten. That apple is rotten to the core, man. And I'm sure once Francisco Alvarez comes back, he will be out of here. Because they're going to keep Tomas Nido, and I prefer Tomas Nido of the two. Believe in the Mets saying, let's do a big Mets podcaster meetup on the Mercury Mets jersey giveaway day. I will be there for that to get my Mike Piazza Mercury Mets jersey. So that will be the final piece of my Mike Piazza jersey collection that I have. I got the black jersey. I have a blue away jersey. I have the orange spring training jersey. And then now all I need is this Mercury Mets jersey to come. So I appreciate that. Stony815 saying, appreciate you also. Thank you so much, Stony. I appreciate you being on and watching the show with us. Chris Farrow saying, so Omar is a prune. Maybe he's causing the consistent runs in the clubhouse. Maybe he is. I know he's not helping us get runs. That's for sure. But he's helping the team get the poop runs. Believe in the Mets saying, Jet Williams should be demoted to single A. All the unwarranted hype got to his head, and he is batting 191 in double A. Must be trying to play like Lindor. To be honest with you, I have not been paying any attention to what's going on in the minor leagues, unless they're like really close. And that's always how it's been for me. There's too many players that have been hyped up and have disappointed. And it's been so frustrating to watch. So I get that. Ibby saying that Jet is hurt right now. So, we'll see what happens moving forward. But we got a big series coming up. I appreciate everyone. There's 93 people in here. Please like the video. Please subscribe to Subway to Shea. Hit those emojis on the side. I think there's now emojis now that you can press on there. There's like the heart emoji, the 100 emoji, a laugh emoji, all that stuff. But thank you guys for tuning into this. I appreciate you. Jeff Cohen in the chat. Ibby, Maureen, Duran Rivera. Amazing Dan saying, agreeing with you, Ibby, saying Jet Williams is hurt. Chris Furrow in the chat. Anyone that I missed, Patty is also in the chat. Keith was in the chat earlier. CP, Carson, everyone who is in here, appreciate you. I'll leave you with what Believe in the Mets said. This is must sweep time. Must sweep for the Mets. There's no excuse that they should not sweep this team. A loss will be disappointing to me, at least. And I'm not 2 out of 3, great and all, but you should be sweeping this Marlins team, which has been awful. Carlos Ortiz, shout out to you as well. Junior Swingman, appreciate you. Yes, hopefully the Mets do show up. Maureen, again, thank you so much. Appreciate you there. Amazing Dan saying the wrist injury could explain his slow start. Could, definitely. But that's going to wrap up this Subway to Shea series preview. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Probably will have the Subway to Shea podcast out on Monday. Just trying to get a guest, having to work on the time hasn't worked out. I've also been really busy at work this week, so it's been hard for me. Doing the series preview has probably been the best part of doing the shows, because it just goes live and it just goes out there. But when I do the podcasts, I got to edit, I got to put into audio form. All the content creators know how long it takes to do all that stuff. But there will be a podcast at the very least out on Monday, and then you can catch me back on Monday doing a series preview for the Guardian series coming up with my good friend Nick Durst from You Know I'm Right podcast and from Believe in the Mets. But that wraps it up here. Like I said, and like you see on the bottom of the screen there, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow Subway to Shea, which is now officially called X, because now there's Twitter is gone, so now it's officially called X. Instagram and TikTok. I think that they now have the I don't know. I think it's like X.com. They changed it to. I don't know. I keep getting emails about it, but you can follow at Ant Rivera 86 and at Subway to Shea. Appreciate everyone. Stoney said, "Good luck, Mets." Definitely, good luck, Mets, and please sweep the Marlins, please. And I like to end the stream always. Everyone said it in here. LFGM, let's go Mets. Have a good night, everyone, and have a good weekend.